Welcome back to Mental Health Matters. We got a fantastic show for you today. And today, we're going to talk about fear. And I know this is a difficult topic because there's been so much fear. And we'll talk about the distinction between worry and fear that's going on in our country everywhere. But it's not just here, it's everywhere across the globe right now. And one of the things we're going to get to is, what do we do about it? But first, we're going to talk about the causes of fear and what do we create from it. You're listening to Mental Health Matters with Dr. Scott Terry. I'm Dr. Scott Terry, and we got a full house today. We got 3 extra people in the room to co-host with me today. This is great. Our favorite Nicole and Promila, and a special guest.
Hi, I'm Danielle. I'm Nicole's daughter.
Okay, Danielle's in high school, and she's going to talk about fear that's going on in the high school. So, you listen to Mental Health Matters on KRUU 100.1 on your FM dial, and these shows are, you could listen at 6:30 on Tuesday nights, 12:30 on Thursday afternoons, or you could also listen to a bunch of the archives. You go to our YouTube channel, or you could simply go to KRUUFM.com, or you can go to the website Ardent Counseling Center, ardentcenter.com. So Ardent, A-R-D-E-N-T, Ardent Center, CENTER.com, and go in the media tab and you'll see podcast, links to the YouTube video channel, and all kinds of other things. Anyways, so glad you're with us today. Stick on around for the half an hour and let's have some fun. So, fear. So, Nicole, what do you, well, not Nicole, actually, Danielle, I want to hear from you first.
Okay.
So, tell us what you're noticing at high school. I mean, we're right now broadcasting from Fairfield, Iowa, if you guys don't know. And Fairfield, I know most of you are listening to Fairfield, but a lot of people aren't. And in Fairfield, it's a town of about 10,000 people in a rural area. And there's issues here.
Well, it's not as large of a scale as it could be in like a bigger city, but there is still a lot of fear going on. And I think it has to do with like the stigma of love and tolerance versus the stigma of being afraid of what you're loving and what you're tolerating. And there has been a lot of, ever since the election, there's been a lot of increase in the racial stigma and mostly everybody who's different from the majority of people living here. And
so again, this is a radio show, so people can't see you guys. We're in a very diverse group of people right now. Okay, you're African American.
Yes.
Okay, and I have to make a distinction between that and African because
not the same.
Not at all the same.
No, we're in America.
It's kind of ridiculous that they have that name.
No, but it is kind of
been to Africa.
That's true. That's true. So it is. Even these misnomers, and it's like, so if I don't even know how to address you, right? Or do you need addressing? Do you address me? Oh, you're Caucasian. Oh, Mr. Caucasian white person. Well, it's like, right?
Yeah. The thing is, because of the way our society's been set up, you're not going to get away from the race that you are. It's just not going to happen. But people take pride in being black. They take pride in being whatever they are. It doesn't matter what you are. You take pride in it. But it matters on the level of pride that you take and how you address other people and the level of pride that they take. You can have the same level of pride, but view yours as more important than other person's, and then that's how the racism and the bashing comes.
Well, I think it's whenever you get into that us versus them, that's where you always run into that problem. Yeah. And, I think it also becomes really confusing for people and gets to be a misnomer. So we're talking about the race issue. So last year, of course, there was a lot of people standing up and saying Black Lives Matter.
Oh, God.
And then other people are saying, no, all lives matter, right? But why is it specifically Black lives should matter?
Well, personally...
And that doesn't mean that I'm dismissing that Asian life shouldn't matter or Latino life shouldn't matter. What does that statement mean to you?
When you're saying Black Lives Matter, you're not saying like, oh my God, no other lives matter but only Black Lives Matter. You can't. Okay, let me put it in perspective. You have a tree. You have another tree. and one tree is significantly smaller than the other tree, and the other tree is getting a whole lot of water, and the tree that's next to it is not getting a lot of water. Well, that tree is sick of not getting a lot of water. It really wants that water, and it's really striving for it. So it goes out and it takes that water. We're not saying that we don't want to water everybody else, but we need some water for ourselves. And I'm sure that other societies of other races of people feel the same way in the society they're living in. But it has to do with what's going on in our society. And even being black in a small town has a big impact on you.
Well, you stand out a whole lot more. Literally, I mean, so you walk around and you look different than the white community.
Yeah, you're never going to forget that you're black. I mean, no matter what age you are.
And it doesn't dismiss, for instance, with the debate that had happened, blue lives matter. That cops really are important. Right. And they do a vital, essential job.
Yes, of course.
But that doesn't mean that even if somebody deserves arresting for whatever reason, you're not arresting them for some racial stereotyping. You're arresting them because they, were speeding or doing something wrong, right? And that person still deserves respect, just like the policeman deserves respect, just like each of us. And I think that whole notion of, we had talked about diversity in a previous show, talking about this notion of respect of each other, like we were talking about in relationships. Relationships fall apart because of the lack of respect, not even the lack of communication. That I genuinely care. And we're going to break down that barrier of the us versus them. We're all in the same boat. We're all getting off at the same place. God's still waiting on the other end or carrying us along or whatever, however we want to talk about that. So. Okay. However we want to talk about that. We all have different perspectives from our different spaces on that. Right. But it's still the same thing. So what do you notice at school?
Especially recently, before the whole Donald Trump election, it was getting better. People were striving to be different and to embrace differences, whether it was being transgender or just being a race or wearing a different color shirt. It was expressing yourself and being comfortable with that and being comfortable in diversity. And it was getting better. I've only lived here for 3 years, and I saw the progression. And then the election happened, and so during the span of time, whenever people were being elected and whenever it happened, people got progressively more and more racist and more less tolerant of other people and differences. And that
so it wasn't just against black people. We'll call them black instead of African American. Like it was against transgender. It was against people that are Latino,
it was against everybody.
Gays. And again, whatever stereotype, difference.
Yeah.
Right?
I've heard wall jokes 1,000 times.
Wall jokes.
I'll send you back over the wall if you don't do this for me, or you're my friend. I can say that, but you can't. It doesn't matter.
So even the sarcasm, the jokes become with an edge on it.
Yeah. It's become passive aggressive joking. It's not joking anymore. It's become to the point where I have a serious tone about it, but I'm passing it off as a joke because you're my friend. I can do that. But the thing about it is, whether or not you're my friend or not, there's still a sensitive part of what's going on. It's affecting me, and I know it's affecting you, but you cannot just say whatever you want and expect me to be okay with it because we're just friends. And it's a stigma with that too. People think that because they have a black girlfriend or a Latino friend or an Asian friend or whatever race, grandmother or grandparent or parent, that they can say whatever they want to, and they can't. And then it gets to the point when people are like, oh, now you're saying I can't say that because I'm this or I'm that or I'm whatever. And then they get hostile and they get angry. And it's really the point of people not understanding and not trying to understand why they can't say these things and what the stigma is about it.
Well, I think it's also missing the point of what's underneath, those statements. Yeah. And it's not, I'm not inhibiting your liberty to speak. And I'm not saying, just modify your tone. I'm saying get what's underneath it. Yeah. Get that pain that you're experiencing. Because we're all experiencing some pain and you're all experiencing something isn't working. That doesn't mean that if it's like the guard's coming out to rescue you because you're drowning, pushing the guard under you, the lifeguard isn't going to help you. You go up for a second, but now you both drowned.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we're in this together, and it's kind of getting that concept of how can we actually grow together and benefit by that sense of diversity, which is, you know, Representative Kurt Hansen was on last time, and he said that so beautifully. Anyways, your mother Nicole is here. So
hello, everyone.
So Nicole, you're a reporter, and have you
Yes.
seen this kind of increase?
Oh, well, yeah, and it's as we become adults, you know, we may not say as much as young people are saying because we know better. So, but the things are still said, and the looks come about, and you know, whenever someone is feeling the air changes in the room when someone's feeling a certain way. You know, I will just say this: what I'm so saddened about is, you know, I grew up in the 90s, the 80s and the 90s, and I remember just thinking that, you know, the world had changed so much and it was so much better by the time I was going to school. I didn't grow up in segregation and a segregated society. I went to private school. I had friends of all races, all nationalities. And so I just assumed that by the time my children came along that things would be even better than they were whenever I was growing up. And so it's kind of personal for me that my own children are experiencing something that I just assumed that by the time I had kids, they wouldn't be experiencing. I think in some cases they're experiencing a little worse than what I did. So that's and being a reporter, I would have to say, seeing in the media, and this is something that Promila is going to speak about later, that our country is just. Yeah, I don't know what to say. You know, hearing that people
we're all experiencing this frustration.
Absolutely.
And the point is, if you're listening to this, you're not alone. That anxiety is real and it's prevalent. The question that we always come back to, like in therapy, is not what is the problem, not understanding it, not feeling it, but what am I going to create from that problem? Because often therapy gets trapped in, okay, well, what do you feel about that? Or what do you think about that, and getting to a deeper understanding? Yes, that's important, but what's really more important is that anxiety is breaking us all. Yeah. And what can we really do about it is to create that center within us and create a greater diversity amongst us. You know, by having that respect, having that understanding across cultures, but then actually doing something to show that. Right. But we're going to get more into that in a second. Danielle, you had a quick thing that you want to say?
Just from knowing about my mom's time in like the 90s and 80s and looking at that and looking at what's going on now, and have lived in North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, and now Fairfield, Iowa, I would say it's gotten a little bit worse. And I don't know why, but I guess it's just, it has backtracked significantly. And look at the 80s and 90s and stuff, and I haven't seen as near the multitude of just anger and aggression and confusion and not understanding of people as I do now. And I'm still young, and I know that.
I want to say something too. You know, I'm going to say, I don't mean to cut her off, but I just want to say this. I think, and I don't know if anybody else is going to agree with me, but I think that it's because racism hasn't been dealt with in this country. We have not sat down and had these real conversations. We haven't done that, and we keep glossing over it. Mm-hmm. We keep saying, oh, it's better now. Oh, it's no problems now. Oh, that's not happening here. But there's feelings that are going on inside that do not get addressed. And that's where the microaggressions and actually macroaggressions come from in this society.
Yeah. But, you know, this isn't, again, just, we could just pick racism as one thing. Right. But we could talk about it. I've talked to a number of Muslim students the other week who are starkly in fear. Yes. I could talk to a number of my friends who are Jewish who are starkly, the anti-Semitism is prevalent. There's been almost 200 attacks or threats across the country, and it's real. And yes, my rabbi used to say, you know, that the Holocaust happened because we didn't know each other. because the Jews were separated from the Germans, even amongst the communities. Yeah. But there was integration. So I'm not sure I always buy that. I mean, you're going to school with other people. You have friends that are white. You're having the dialogue, but you're not. Something's missing.
It's the comfortability. People need to understand. I'm not always comfortable. I went from multiracial, diverse places to mostly white place. And I am not 100% comfortable with where I go to school, where I live. I'm not. But just because I'm not comfortable does not mean I'm not going to deal with it. And people here especially are not comfortable, but they have been so comfortable with what they've been used to that whenever they get out of the comfortability zone, they don't know how to handle it, and they decide to recede and get angry. And we got to get over this. We got to be adults about this, whether you're a child or an adult. You got to grow up and listen. You're not going to be comfortable, okay? But I'm not comfortable with seeing on TV people, not only of my color, but Muslims and Jewish and everybody being persecuted for just because we're not comfortable talking about it. Right. This is an easy fix, and all you have to do is grow up and be comfortable about things. And
okay. By the way, you're listening to Mental Health Matters. Dr. Scott Terry, 100.1 on your FM dial. Today we're talking about fear. And Promila is going to talk in a second, talking a little bit about the causes and what she's been seeing as a professor. And by the way, before I introduce Promila, we're going to say this at every time we see her. Congratulations on being nominated for a CNN Heroes Award. Huge.
Thanks, Scott.
This is big.
Yes.
Everybody get that CNN Heroes Award. She deserves it. We're voting for it.
Big deal.
Okay. So, Promila, what do you think?
Yeah.
What are you seeing? And then tell us read to us a little something. So what are you seeing?
Actually, before I start talking over what I am seeing, I want to address Danielle. Danielle is a ray of hope for us. She is our future generation, and she is somebody who has to understand that if somebody is trying to have joke on you, he may be himself sick actually. So you need to have sympathy with that person, because your color, your body, your physique, etc. They are something that has never been in your control, Danielle. They are gifted from God actually. What makes you good is your inner beauty and how beautiful you are, and you should not be so upset about the things. It's okay. I mean, you are the one who is going to make the change. And if you are from America, you are an American. You know this, the beautiful glory and the past of America. America has always accepted, and they have came up with something like Martin Luther King Jr. and still we celebrate his day. So you should always have that hope that definitely you have that potential to change the world and the way they look to it. If your friends are like that, please advise them that you go and see Dr. Scott Terry. You need some help from him.
But it is true that, change happens by you creating that dialogue. Absolutely. And all of us, who's ever listening, invest in that dialogue and get if somebody's saying something, because for whatever your difference is, and it really doesn't matter. That's because right. We're all different. And that's Absolutely. The twisted part about all this, is that every one of us is different. Every single one of us has something. I can tell you, as somebody who's been doing this now 24 years, being a therapist, which is pretty wild. I just realized that the other day. Is like that everybody has that distinction. Yes. Right? We all have that spark of life.
We all are beautiful. I mean, look at Angelina Jolie. She is a very famous actress these days. Mm-hmm. And do you think she is the only beautiful lady left in the whole world? It's not like that. But the way she carries herself, the way she transforms herself, and the way she works over her role, that makes her distinctive. And if blacks or whites or Americans or Indians or any races, they have distinction, it is just because of their qualities. Their wisdom speaks. So let your wisdom speak. Don't get trapped by these things. I would suggest that on a friendly note to you. And if you have more issues, you have Dr. Scott Terry.
All right. So what do we got? So, okay. But you've been noticing as a professor, you've certainly seen some of this.
Yeah, I do see that thing in Scott, that thing in the university. I see Muslim students and students from East Asia and Southeast Asia having fears. University have seen the drop in visas We are getting less students. So see the bigger picture. The bigger picture is we are trying to make this world a better place to live in. And when you are having a drop in visas, you are losing your business actually.
Yes.
Nobody else is doing that. And the fear is like, the student think, oh professor, we are on F1 visa, would we be getting H1 visa, and stuff like that. And I always tell them that there is always hope, and it is the good that always prevails. So be hopeful. I mean, that is what I would suggest. Like fears, you can be fear of like ghosts, cockroaches, spiders, etc., or tunnels or bridges or needles. So like this is one more thing that you have got to get feared about. But fearing something is like you are harming yourself more. I think, Nicole, you have to say something.
You know, I was just thinking about a definition that I've heard of fear: false evidence appearing real.
Wow.
Yes.
False evidence appearing real. And I think in this country, we need to do more education on who we are. I think that's our biggest downfall.
Well, that really comes back to one of the things to do is to get involved. And that's what I remind everybody. It's like last week we were talking about the political situation. We're talking the way to get around this is to get involved, not to withdraw more like when you're depressed. And that's the distinction, by the way, between depression and anxiety. Is depression, you start going within, and anxiety, it's like the attacks outside.
Wow.
And fear, really hits that amygdala, the freeze, fight, or flight. And the problem is, what do we do? And the way to get out of it is to get in action, not think about it, not feel it, acknowledge that. I'm not saying ignore that, of course, acknowledge it, get
Right.
real with it, but then let's get on to the next stage of doing something. So if the fear is addressed to a political situation, become involved. There's some fantastic groups here trying to get involved. Find out what is going on literally in this town and in this state. And yes, there's a national problem where people are really afraid, but it's local too. So do something and get involved. And it's just like volunteering. One of the best things you can do is to do something with it. And I talk to clients all the time about coming up with an emergency kit when you get into a bad state. And if I'm going into a depressive state, for instance, an emergency kit might be, instead of getting sucked into it, like getting the tide taking me under, do something with it, acknowledge it, be with it, and then say, this is an opportunity to have some time to meditate and connect. And if I'm anxious and I'm losing it, take that energy, just like a manic energy, and do something with it,
Right.
and ride it to make a difference out there instead of getting consumed by the dark side of it. Now I sound like Star Wars.
So like Scott, you might be having a better word, but something that I have learned and I practice is like look into the eyes of the fear.
Yes.
Wow. Face it.
Abso-
Face the fear.
Face the fear, but
Yes.
do something with that.
Right.
So look at it and then create something from that.
Right.
Create something productive from that. And so whatever your political affiliation is, or whatever your non-political, do something. Get involved. Because
Do something, get involved and say, fear, I love you. And give a peck on the cheek of the fear and say, yes, we are good.
that's right.
I have something so funny to say, and this happened to me yesterday. It's so funny because it actually is relevant to this discussion.
Okay, all right, yeah.
I hate horror movies. I mean, everybody who knows me knows that I hate them. And I actually made myself watch Jeepers Creepers last night. But I love it. Danielle says she loves it. But I made myself do that just so that I could see afterwards that Jeepers Creepers was not coming to get me, But seriously, it's a joke, and it's fun, or not a joke, but it's something that's funny or comical. But at the same time, I faced my fear on the horror movie side, and nothing happened. I'm still sitting here. He didn't come and get me. So I agree with you. We need to start facing our fear and dealing with that fear, if it's a fear of someone else. Get to know somebody who doesn't look like you. It's okay. You're not going to explode. You're not going to blow up.
I just want to add something to that, Nicole. Practically speaking, not only students,
Yes.
in the university, I have seen professors getting feared.
Wow.
Oh, wow, that's a news actually.
Wow.
And this professor who is more experienced than me, I mean, I should say, like, you should be like, don't get offended every time for everything. I mean, you should not be offended. And this process, and when we were having this talk during our lunch break, the professor said, "Oh, what will happen now? You see the situation,
Oh.
and if Trump would be president for the next, I mean, for whole 8 years, what will happen?"
Now
I said, "Excuse me, why can't we
got
live in
fear
the
for
future?"
tomorrow too.
So I just said, "Excuse me, can we simply live in the present and
Right.
enjoy our present rather than bothering ourselves and taking
Right.
care of the future?" I mean, and this person, as just Scott mentioned, this person cannot sleep at night because of fear.
Right.
And then somebody, because we are into such a lovely university where you get practice of transcendental meditation every time. He was suggested to do practice this meditation, and now he's okay actually. So see, fear is prevailing anyway. I mean, I would really, I was really requesting Scott that we should be. You are the right person who can give us some therapies over fear and management of the fear.
Help
actually.
us with the fear.
Well, and I think it's like the same with the anxiety. It's not just taking the magic pill, because it's not about masking the fear. And I think you have the analogy. Find somebody who's not like you.
Yes.
Find somebody at school and who's maybe teasing you in a way that's inappropriate because they're insecure, because they're fearful, but they're sublimating their fear. They're pushing down their fear because they don't know how to deal with it. The way to get around it is to almost do the opposite,
Yes.
right? If I'm fearing the connection, create connection.
Wow.
Find a way to manifest it. And if you can't find connection outside, like we were talking about depression, go inside and create connection inside. And if you can't, if it's an outside thing, then create some movement or change. Because it's really easy to feel defeated,
Yes.
right? And it's really nice to sit there and say, okay, well, I'll go on a march. Well, go on that march, but then sign somebody up afterwards, and then go to your neighbor afterwards who isn't like you, and then go have the conversation so that there isn't such a polarization, a stigmatization, and a separation that's happening. This is, this isn't just, again, here in the States. This is
No.
everywhere.
Right.
Where we're more separated between the wealthy and the poor than we've ever been.
Yes.
And every society, even every strata of the middle class, is now separated into different communities, and they don't communicate with each other.
Right.
We've lost that sense of, it's really staggering in this area of the internet where we can connect with anybody in an instant anywhere, that we're less connected than we ever were before.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, that is so strange to me that we are less connected as we are, as close as we are, as global as we are less connected than we were 20 years ago.
Yeah, and Nicole, I think that's a real serious problem because, we need to have balance in our lives, the balance between Facebook friends and the real friends, the friends that you see physically, because we are social human beings and we need people to connect. And the bright side of it, like if you are not every time on the internet, I was reading this article about India a few days back that this Prime Minister is causing a lot of troubles. And the best part is that no matter how good picture he paints on with the help of social media or internet, India is still 70% go without internet, or say 60% go without internet. So they do talk to their neighbors. And as the
Right.
Bible says, love thy neighbor. That is what you have been taught,
Right.
actually.
Right.
So you start loving your neighbor. We know each other's real status. And that is what brings an idea of getting social movement in ourselves.
So, excellent. So let's finish up for today. Danielle, anything last parting words from you? Okay. Nicole?
I really enjoy the show.
Well, thanks. I really enjoy you guys coming here.
The last line I would say is like, deal with fear.
Yes.
Be with the fear. Be with what you're experiencing, whatever you're experiencing. Again, living in denial, living in pain is what causes the destruction. Again, that doesn't mean you got to get lost in it. In this town, there's something called don't entertain negativity. People get lost in this last part of this phrase. And what it really should be saying is don't get trapped in negativity. It's not don't have negativity.
Right.
Negative things will exist. That's the nature of reality. you're going to experience something that doesn't feel good.
Right.
Don't push it away. Experience it, but then create. Don't get trapped in it. Create something productive from it.
Right.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks. 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 Thanks.